Mom, is your baby's car seat properly installed? Grandpa, have you ever been the victim of ID theft? Child, do you know the rules around the swimming pool? Stay tuned to the next episode of Consumer Compass and we'll explore these topics and more. Hi folks, I'm Eric Friedman, Director of Montgomery County's Office of Consumer Protection. Our mission here at OCP is to ensure integrity in the marketplace. We do that by enforcing consumer protection laws. We also help resolve complaints, craft legislation, and oversee licensing in areas such as auto repair and new home building. And finally, we provide consumer education and work with other agencies to get the word out.
Okay, you know, they could have brought...
In today's show, we're focusing on our most vulnerable members of the community, seniors and children. In the case of children, safety is a huge part of protecting them. So we'll be looking at the county's Infant and Child Safety Seat program.
And then last of all, a booster seat.
Some parents and caregivers are using seats that may no longer be safe, or they are installing the seats incorrectly. We'll also be focusing on swimming pools and spas. As the warm weather approaches and we're prepared to enjoy our outdoor pools, safety must be a priority. Did you know that 300 children under age 5 drown each year in swimming pools in the United States, and more than 3,000 are injured? Switching gears to our seniors, they're often prey to con artists. Why? Typically older adults are from a more trusting generation, so they don't suspect seemingly nice people would take advantage of them. They're usually home alone during the day, may live alone, making them easier targets. Plus, seniors may not be familiar with the online techniques used for scamming.
Types of perpetrators.
But not to worry. Today we'll be dropping in on a seminar and learn how seniors can avoid fraud. So let's begin with the Infant and Child Safety Seat program. Here's Emily Crown, who works for Montgomery County's Fire and Rescue Service and oversees the program. So Emily, can you explain what the Child Passenger Safety Program is in Montgomery County?
Sure, we do several things. First of all, we help educate parents how to use their car seats. So we have car seat inspections set up by appointment and open events where parents can come and get their car seats checked. We do that about 18 hours every single week.
And once that's all nice and tight, you want to make sure your chest clip is right at armpit level.
Over 10 years that you've been running this program, about how many seats have you put in, or your people put in? How many people have you trained?
We've put in over 112,000 car seats. The county employees have taken up another 75,000 or so. So an awful lot has been done, and while that might seem like a low number, if you take into account the fact that it takes about a half hour per car seat, that's a tremendous amount of man hours.
Now this training is pretty complicated itself. The training is not like a 1-hour class, is it?
Oh, it's a 4-day class. 4-day class, and then we have our annual updates too.
The real way to get trained in this is to be out inside cars, putting in car seats and getting experience, because there are hundreds of models of cars and over 100 different car seats, and trying to get them all in vehicles and the different configurations really takes a lot of training.
When you say move it up, do you just mean move the
I'm
whole
sorry. This
thing on?
piece here.
Okay, how do I move this piece up?
You need more belt.
Oh, if I need more
Right.
belt, I do that. Okay.
And if you're unable to...
This is my son-in-law, Clark Fava. I'm here with my daughter's vehicle. She's in the hospital with the baby, and I'm getting her vehicle tested with the car seat to make sure it's safe for my first grandson. My first grandchild, period.
So what happens is the baby will go towards the crash. If these are not tight enough, they'll move up in the seat, and we don't want it.
I'm learning a lot of safety issues that I didn't know before, but the fact that this is safety tested by fire and rescue, who know what the potential dangers are and help you to avoid these dangers and secure your child as best as possible in a vehicle.
Tell us a little bit of the history. I know at one point there was a connection with the Consumer Protection Office.
Yes, actually the Office of Consumer Protection started the whole program in my mind. What happened, you started receiving calls from members of the public who were having problems with their car seats, and so they decided to get trained. And after they got trained, they hooked up with Safe Kids Montgomery County and got more people trained in fire rescue and the police, and just sort of started a movement. Early 1999, right after a big seat check event at Fitzgerald Auto Mall, right after a lady had left, within 24 hours, she was broadsided by a huge dump truck, a lot of intrusion into the vehicle. The vehicle was completely destroyed, but her 2 children were safe. And she decided that that seat check had saved her children's lives. She went on to become a car seat technician and a big advocate for everything that was going on in Montgomery County. And the Office of Consumer Protection suggested to the county executive that they start a program.
So it really was a response to the need to protect our children.
Yes, injury prevention is a really big deal when you're talking about children under the age of 15. It's the #1 killer, unintentional injuries.
Now, I remember when my children were born many years ago, we thought it was very simple to put the car seat in, but it wasn't really quite as simple as you parents typically think.
No, the car seat manufacturers are trying to make it easier, and they've come up with, there's been a lot of progress in the last 15 years, but unfortunately it's not an easy thing. We still find about 4 out of 5 car seats are not used properly, and so we're here to try to help people do it right.
Now, as a parent, I know how appreciative all consumers are and parents are when they can come to you and have the seat put in and know it's in correctly.
You feel that?
Yeah, now it's not. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's good.
The good thing is realizing the mistakes before the child's put in it, and just having more than one person, come out and help you is a real nice thing.
Well, we've got a car and a seat over here, so we could just
Okay,
give it a look.
sure.
So we got a new car seat and a new car.
Yes, and what I'd like you to do, I'm going to pretend you are the parent. I'm going to have you help me put in this car seat. You can just leave this on the ground for right now, and we're going to work with the base that this goes into first. That's the way infant carriers work.
Okay.
So, I'm going to put this down on your vehicle seat, Eric.
Okay.
And the first thing we're going to do is put the seat belt through the car seat. And this is the belt path of the car seat. This is the place where the seat belt goes, and it's labeled Vehicle Belt Path. So I'm going to
Okay.
bring it over here.
Can I help
And I
grab
want
it?
you to buckle it into the buckle. Yes, the center buckle, not
got
the
it.
side one.
Okay, it clicked.
Then, in order to get a tight car seat installation, you will need to make sure the seat's right up against the back of the seat and press down on the seat at the same time that you're pulling the belt tight. You're taking all the slack out of the belt, pressing down and pulling. Keep the tightness, and when I'm out here, just slide the seat belt into the shoulder belt lock-off.
And that keeps it tight.
That keeps it tight, and you're done. Now the seat is in really tight. What you always want to do with any car seat, whatever type it is, where a seat belt is going through it, is grab the seat right at the belt path where the belt is going through, and it shouldn't move more than an inch. See how it's not moving side to side or front to back. But it's extremely important that you press down while you pull the belt tight. If I didn't do that, let me undo this and just show you. If I just took this and put it in the lock-off without pressing down,
Right.
you see how the seat
Oh,
moves?
look at that movement.
That's not acceptable. It's not allowed to move more than an inch. Now, what you probably didn't know is how long children are to ride rear-facing now. Do
Right.
you have any idea?
I'm going to guess age 2.
That is perfect. Most people would have said age 1.
One.
The latest information out there is that children are 75% safer rear-facing under the age of 2. And we're going to snap it into the space, and I'm going to show you why rear-facing is so much safer.
Hard to remember my kids were this small.
Yep, that's right. That was very easy.
Yeah, click
Now,
right in.
you see what happens is if there's a frontal crash, this seat is going to try to go this way, but it's in the base really tightly. That's like the fulcrum, so that's keeping it. And the child riding in this seat is going to go back into the seat, so they have support for their head, their neck, and their spinal cord. Car seats have come a long way. There weren't even seat belts in cars when I was growing up. Yep, I spent many a trip going to, my parents used to drive at night so that they wouldn't have to put up with us squabbling.
Too bad they still squabble though.
Yes, we can't stop them from
Haven't
squabbling.
fixed it.
That's right. We have open seat check events at Fitzgerald Auto Mall every month on the third Thursday of the month from 10 to 12:30. Anybody can show up, no appointment is necessary. They can make an individual appointment through Montgomery County Fire Rescue at one of our 3 different inspection sites.
So Emily, how much do parents have to pay for all this help?
They don't have to pay anything. It's a free service. We happily accept donations. Many people like to do that, but that's totally voluntary.
Okay, well thank you so much for all the information.
You're very, very welcome. And if you know of anybody who wants to volunteer or get the training, have them call me because we can always use more help, especially bilingual.
Okay, well get the word out. As I mentioned, this edition of Consumer Compass looks at the most vulnerable people in our community. Here at Consumer Protection, we spend a lot of time investigating claims from seniors who've been defrauded.
Sees this, he's going to be more than very unhappy.
You know, many of these scams are avoidable, so we try to educate the community any way we can. One way is by holding public forums and meetings at senior centers. Here's one we did recently at the Charter House in Silver Spring with lots of good advice.
I'm Stuart Rosenthal, publisher of the Beacon newspapers and chair of the Maryland Commission on Aging, and I'm very pleased to welcome you all to tonight's program. Thank you for coming.
The law, like 500 or 1,000 years ago, invented the concept of a power of attorney, which is that if I cannot manage my own finances or make my own healthcare decisions, I can give my authority to somebody else on a temporary or permanent basis. The Maryland law has now passed just this past October. We have a new model statutory form that is the standard, and the good news about that is that all banks and financial institutions, Merrill Lynch and all those other kinds of houses, all have to recognize this model statutory form. It can be tinkered with a little bit. It has to have the magic witness requirements have got to be met on that form. But the good news is once you do that, the banks and other places have to recognize them. We used to, before this law went into effect, we would draft, as attorneys, we would draft financial powers of attorney, and sometimes the banks would say, we don't recognize this, or this isn't our form, and we don't know what to do with it. So I'm a general supporter of the new law. There are a few little imperfections, but that's true of just about everything in the world. So generally, the new statutory power of attorney form is a very helpful requirement.
If you would want or need assisted living, know that in Maryland, assisted living facilities are licensed. That's not the case in every state. But in Maryland, you have the protection that your assisted living facilities are licensed. Now, there are some people who have small homes that provide care that are operating fraudulently, and they're not licensed. So the first thing you always want to ask when you're looking for care, is your facility licensed? Also, you should ask, can I see your inspection reports? Whether it's assisted living or nursing homes, these facilities are inspected by the state of Maryland, and you have the right, all of the public has the right to see these reports. You should also always visit the facilities before you make a decision about moving there. What might be good for one of you might not be something enjoyable for the other person. But don't visit at the same time every day. Make multiple visits. Go at lunchtime. Stop by in the evening. Go on the weekend and see how many staff are there. And the number of staff and how the staff treat the residents is the very number one thing.
The main types of perpetrators that pick on seniors are what I would call this category of trusted people, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. And then the other category would be strangers. And I think Eric's going to talk more about how some of the strangers come at you, but strangers are often the ones that are committing identity fraud. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that piece. There's good and bad news about identity fraud. Almost all of you in this room at some point in your life are going to be a victim of identity fraud or have been a victim of identity fraud. It is incredibly common. That's the bad news about it. And the bad news, related even to the bad news, is Much of it that goes on involving your credit cards is done through the internet or through online sources coming out of Eastern Europe or coming out of other foreign countries where the ability for us locally here to prosecute really doesn't exist. None of you want to pay the taxes for me to fly to Russia and find a bad guy and bring him back here. The good news about this, though, is identity fraud has changed over the years. When it first became a problem, the banks were very much telling us as consumers, your problem, you sort it out. And that's changed. The banks have realized we need to keep you as customers, and so for the vast majority of identity fraud cases, the customers do not wind up suffering any financial loss. I think a statistic I saw not too long ago was over 75% of the people that have been victims of identity fraud don't have any financial loss. Headache, yes, you're going to have headache as you try to sort these things out, but no real financial loss to you.
And you know, the thing is, crooks are the great equalizer. They don't care if you're rich or poor, whether you have lots of degrees or whether you don't have much of a formal education. If they can rip you off, they will. And the most amazing thing is the people who've been scammed that contact our office will say, I can't tell you how many times they say this, but he sounded so honest. He was so convincing. He sounded so nice. Yeah, exactly. Because if he didn't, he'd have to have real jobs like the rest of us. So the only way these scams work is if they can bring you into their trust. And they're professional at doing what they're doing. I want to tell you about the latest scam, fake checks. I don't know if people have already experienced that, have already seen them, and this proves, fake checks proves that old scams never die, they just go high tech. The crooks, the fraudsters, the conmen have been able to create checks that look so real, even a bank teller cannot distinguish them from a real check. And this also proves to what extent we've done something of a good job of educating consumers. So a lot of consumers will not fall for some of the scams. So we've raised the bar. They now have to trick you by delivering to you a fake check. So we all know, we're smart enough to know that if someone tells us we've won $1 million in the lottery, yeah, don't believe it. But so now the crooks send us what they claim is a real check for our first payment, because to prove to us that we've really won this lottery. And all we have to do is send them a check for $200 to pay for the taxes or the administrative fees or whatever, and then they'll keep sending us more and more checks. Well, of course, as you know, the end of that story, you send the check to them, it's a good check, and then you go and 7 days later you find out the check that you deposited is in fact a phony check. But these checks, these fake checks are so real, they have security features on them, they have watermarks on them, you cannot distinguish them. So we just again have to realize that these scams have gone high tech, and don't be fooled by them.
And we all find ourselves in situations where we think we're smart. I think I'm a smart consumer, but little did I know how much of this kind of scam goes on, and people who work hard for their money every day like we all do have to be very careful. So I'm really happy that the Office of Consumer Protection has decided to come out here to the Charter House to do all that they can to impart information to us. And so every time I am in the company of this, of Eric and his folks, I just have to say thank you for teaching me. There's so much to learn.
To end the show, I'd like to leave you with a video that our friends at the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission created. It's called Pool Safely. In 2008, Congress passed the Virginia Graham Baker Pool and Spa Safety Act. This law involves removing dangerous drain covers and installing safe ones. The law was the result of a tragic accident. 7-year-old Graham got her hair caught in a hot tub drain and drowned. She was the granddaughter of former Secretary of State James Baker III. Her mother, Nancy Baker, worked tirelessly to prevent this from ever happening again, and today pools and spas must be equipped with a special drain cover. Pool Safely is a national public education campaign to raise awareness on this topic. It looks at pool safety measures including fencing, alarms, pool covers, swimming education, life-saving skills, and more.
Hello, this is Ming Na. Every year, approximately 300 children under the age of 5 drown in swimming pools and spas. Thousands more hospitalized after close calls. Every single one of these deaths and injuries is preventable. Simple steps save lives. And not just 1 or 2 steps, but multiple ones must be taken at all times to ensure safety around pools and spas. That's what we mean by pool safely. So always apply as many of the following simple steps as possible, because you never know which safety step will save a life, until it does.
When there's the potential for trouble, my boy's going to find it. So I pool safely by staying within arm's reach. No matter what kind of pool, lifeguards or not, a designated adult watches the kids. When I'm the water watcher, I move my chair near the edge. I do a regular head count and step in when there's too much horsing around. When there's a group of kids and parents, we always know who the water watcher is, and we always keep track of our own kids. And when swim time is over, when the kids are out of the pool area, is when I make phone calls, respond to texts, and chat with friends.
I do everything I can to keep the kids I sit safe, starting with always keeping an eye on them. A pool fence is also a super important way to pool safely. It's a physical barrier that keeps kids out of the pool. Fencing needs to be at least 4 feet high, ideally 5, and impossible to climb. It has to have a gate that closes and latches securely on its own, and a latch release knob that cannot be reached by little ones. It should surround the entire pool, but if your home creates a 4th wall that blocks off the pool area, make sure you install and use door alarms. A fence is the guardian that's always vigilant, but it doesn't replace supervision and water safety skills. If the family I babysit for has a pool, I make sure to talk to them about the system of safety they use, and then add my own steps.
Pool and spa safety covers are a great way to pool safely. Visually, they say "not open," and covers tested to meet safety standards should be strong enough to hold a child or children who don't know any better, and teach kids to stay away from them. Spa should always be covered and locked when not in use. There are pool covers designed to be used daily too, automatic ones that can be used and removed by an adult in a short time. So choose the one that works best for you. And don't forget about those ladders on above ground pools either. Take them out when not in use. They scream "climb me" to the little ones. And as always, remember, nothing replaces constant supervision.
Jake is 3, which means he's quick, agile, and super curious. So we pool safely with a couple of alarms. One goes off when the back door that leads to our pool is opened. The other is in the pool itself and goes off when something falls in the water. This way, if a neighbor's child or a friend or even Jake somehow gets to the pool without anyone knowing, I'll know about it instantly. There are many alarm choices. Ones for house doors, the pool gate, surface wave, and underwater alarms, even ones that your child can wear. We chose the system that works best for us. You can choose the system that works best for you. And remember that close supervision is always a requirement.
My girl is always curious, and that can be dangerous in a pool or spa. We pool safely by staying away from drains, skimmers, pipe and vacuum lines, and other pool equipment that can pose a danger to swimmers. It may sound strange, but whenever we go to a new pool, I make sure to ask about new safety drain covers. They can help prevent swimsuit straps, jewelry, and hair from getting entangled, and they are shaped to prevent suction from trapping a person. Plus, public pools and spas are required by law to have them. My daughter teases me for being a safety drain cover geek, but she's worth it. We know that simple steps save lives.
Drownings in close calls are 8 times more likely to happen to kids who can't swim, or to kids being supervised by adults who can't swim. It's why swimming lessons are a crucial water safety step. In fact, swimming is the only sport that can save a life. and lessons are available to kids and adults of all ages. To know what's right for your child, do what I did and ask your pediatrician. Then ask your swim instructor to include other age-appropriate water safety skills. For lessons, try your local Y, American Red Cross chapter, or community pool. But remember, even good swimmers can drown, so make sure there's always supervision.
Most of us know someone who has had a close call in the water. Unfortunately, my close call is about me and my son. It was at a pool without a lifeguard, but with lots of people. By the time I got to him, he was unconscious. I pulled him out and had to perform CPR. It worked. Now I take a CPR refresher course every year through the American Red Cross. It's how I pool safely, and it's something we all can do to build our own water safety skills. Take a CPR course, please, because you never know which step will save a life, until it does.
Again, thanks to the Consumer Product Safety Commission for the video. Well, that's it for this episode of Consumer Compass. If you need more information on any of these topics, please check out our website at montgomerycountymd.gov/consumer. Thanks for watching, and remember, keep safe.